Namaskaram. This forest is so beautiful, especially at sunset like it is right now. So the question is, why can't I make my thoughts go away? The answer is, you can't. You can't force them away, at least. The mind is like a car with no brakes. It's got a gas pedal and a steering wheel. The only gear shifts it knows is drive and neutral. So, you don't hit the brakes because there are none. You just learn to take your foot off the gas pedal. But generally, people don't know what that feels like. They don't know how to just let off the momentum. It feels like their foot's just kind of stuck there, hitting the throttle. Their mind's just going. So this is going to sound kind of counterintuitive, but the trick then is to not focus on the thoughts at first and how to stop them. We're going to focus on other stuff. So one of the things to focus on is the breath. We call this pranayama. With your mind, your thoughts are kind of like a mental energy of sorts. Your emotions are kind of have like an emotional energy. Those are connected, if you've never noticed. Your thoughts and your emotions are pretty well tied together. Now, the next time you have a really strong emotion, if you can take a moment of awareness and notice your breath, you'll notice that you actually have a distinct breathing pattern for each emotion. Happiness is one, anger is another, anxiety yet another. Every single emotion has a very distinct breathing pattern. If you control consciously your breath for a certain amount of time, you'll invoke a specific emotion. And by changing the emotional energy in your body and mind, you invariably change your mental energy, your thought energy, your thoughts themselves. So that's one way, is the breath. The other way is something called dhyana, or dhyan. The Japanese term is a little bit better known here in America. It's Zen, which most people is what they think of generally as meditation. So the best definition for this that we can get in English, it's not perfect, but you kind of can't understand it otherwise, is unfocused awareness. So if you think about that mental energy, your thoughts are kind of zipping from one area of your mind to another. It's very emotionally charged a lot of times. For a lot of people, unfortunately, it's kind of targeted at them. There ends up being a lot of self-hatred, or something where people are just kind of mentally torturing themselves, and that's why they want to stop their thoughts. So if you take that mental energy and you were to spread out your focus, your awareness, to your entirety of your mind, the entirety of your body, and you let it just kind of envelop everything, well, that mental energy kind of dissipates. Because if it's going from this way to that way to this way to that way, and now I take it and I just spread it out, it kind of just dissolves, is what happens. It takes some effort for sure. It takes some time, it takes some practice, but it's doable. It is doable. However, it does require some proper guidance. It's not something that's necessarily, it's definitely not going to be easy if you aren't already coached on how to do it. I can't remember who said it, but doing something is easy, learning something is hard. So the same thing applies here. Another one that you can do is what's known as a mantra, chanting a mantra. So people have probably heard this word, mantra, before. People, I think, a lot of times have associated it with like a motto. And you can kind of use it in that context, but most of the time what it really means is a sound that you are chanting that's not focused on the definition, it's the sound itself. And the sound itself will have an effect on your body and your mind. You may have noticed this, that the different kind of music people listen to will invoke different emotions within them. So again, we're going back to emotions impacting your thoughts. So if you can change the emotions, you can change the thoughts. There's a lot more to it, gets a lot more in depth, but we won't go into that now, it's too much. Mosquitoes are everywhere. Another one that you can do is dharana. Dharana is like the opposite of dhyan. So dhyan is unfocused awareness. Dharana quite literally means focus or concentration. I used to do a lot of martial arts, and in doing martial arts, you can get into very focused states of mind, where kind of the entirety of your being is just focused on one punch, one kick, one movement. And when you get the entirety of your mind and body into focus in this one direction, you go into that flow state. And when you get into that kind of flow state, you'll notice your mind isn't doing anything. There's not a whole lot of mental energy going on. You can kind of think of this, that you have mental energy, you have an emotional energy, you have physical energy that your body goes through, and then you have this weird thing called life. You have these 4 types of energies. If you can focus all of these 4 things into one action, your mind will go blank. This isn't to say that your mind going blank is necessarily a good thing, but rather your mind should take instructions from you. If you've ever heard of this condition called alien limb syndrome, it's where people's arms usually will literally start acting on their own. They have no conscious control over it, and they'll start hitting them, throwing things, knocking things over. I think a lot of people have what I would like to call alien mind syndrome. Their mind's poking them, it's rambling, it's doing all sorts of things that people don't want. So it's important to keep in mind, this is going to be a foundation for this, that your mind does take instructions from you. It's just that you've never read the user's manual to your mind. It's kind of like if you were given a car, you weren't actually taught how to drive, just somehow you've managed to make your way kind of down the road. And then people will say driving is hard. No, driving isn't what's hard. Not knowing how to drive and trying to drive is what's hard. And on that note, the last piece of advice that I would have, you'll have a certain amount of physical energy, a certain amount of emotional energy, a certain amount of mental energy every day when you wake up that kind of needs to be getting out. If you don't exhaust your body before the day is over, you're going to have a hard time going to sleep. You're going to feel restless. If you haven't gotten out your emotions before the day is over, it's going to come back to bite you in so many different ways. There's a certain amount of emotional expression and introspectiveness that you need to go through every day. And there's a certain amount of thinking that you need to do every day. This is going to be different from each person. But if you can figure out some way to get that out, your mind will be much more blank when the time comes, at least, to go to bed. And when you go to bed properly, when you sleep properly, your mind's just going to work a lot better. It's going to be a lot more stable. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please check out my website. Link is down in the description. Namaskar.